There is a silent pain that many people carry. The pain of always being there for everyone, but feeling that no one is truly there for them. They keep giving, hoping to be valued, hoping to be respected, hoping to be understood. But respect never comes from endless sacrifice alone. Today, you will learn why protecting your self-respect is not selfish. It is necessary. 1. Your kindness should never destroy your self-respect. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can have, and a soft heart is truly a gift from Allah. A kind person brings ease to others, spreads comfort in difficult moments, and becomes a source of peace for those around them. Through kindness, relationships grow stronger, misunderstandings reduce, and hearts become closer. Kindness reflects good character, and good character is something greatly loved in Islam. However, there is an important truth many people forget. Kindness should never reach a level where it begins to harm your dignity or weaken your self-respect. Many people misunderstand what it means to be a good person. They believe goodness means always saying yes, always being available, always sacrificing their comfort, and always prioritizing others even when they themselves feel exhausted. They fear that refusing someone will make them appear rude or selfish. They worry that protecting their own time or emotional well-being will make others unhappy. Because of this fear, they continue giving more and more, even when their heart begins to feel heavy. Islam teaches kindness, but it also teaches balance. Islam teaches mercy, but it also teaches wisdom. A believer is not someone who allows others to walk over them. A believer is gentle but not weak. A believer is generous but not careless with their dignity. True kindness is not blind sacrifice. True kindness is guided by understanding, awareness, and self-respect. When kindness is not balanced with wisdom, people slowly begin to take it for granted. At first, they appreciate your efforts, but over time, appreciation turns into expectation. What was once seen as a favor becomes seen as your responsibility. People start assuming you will always adjust, always tolerate, always accept whatever comes your way. They no longer consider your feelings because they believe you will never object. When a person constantly ignores their own needs just to keep others happy, their emotional strength begins to weaken. They start feeling tired, unappreciated, and sometimes even invisible. They give their time but receive little gratitude. They give their energy but receive little understanding. They give their care but receive little respect. Slowly, without realizing, they begin to lose the value they once had in the eyes of people. Self-respect is not pride and it is not arrogance. Self-respect is recognizing that Allah created you with honor. Your presence matters, your feelings matter, your time matters, your mental peace matters. When you constantly allow others to cross your limits, you teach them that your limits do not exist. When you accept behavior that hurts you, you silently tell people that your comfort is not important. A person who respects themselves understands that they cannot pour endlessly into others while remaining empty inside. You cannot continue giving from a place of exhaustion and still expect to feel peaceful. Even acts of kindness require strength, and strength requires balance. When you begin to respect your own boundaries, something powerful happens. People begin to notice that your time is valuable. People begin to understand that your energy is not unlimited. People begin to realize that your kindness is a gift, not an obligation. Respect grows naturally when you show that you also value yourself. It is important to remember that protecting your dignity does not make you a bad person. Taking care of your emotional well-being does not make you selfish. Saying no when necessary does not remove kindness from your heart. In fact, balanced kindness earns more respect than unlimited availability. Islam encourages us to help others, support others, and show compassion. But Islam does not ask us to destroy ourselves in the process. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to protect your time. You are allowed to protect your dignity. Because when kindness is supported by self-respect, it becomes powerful. And when kindness becomes powerful, people value it instead of using it. 2. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Loyalty is a beautiful quality. It is rare, valuable, and deeply meaningful. A loyal person stands beside others during both ease and difficulty. A loyal person does not disappear when circumstances change. Loyalty creates trust, and trust builds strong and lasting relationships. In Islam, sincerity and faithfulness are qualities of strong character. A person who is loyal is often someone who loves deeply, cares deeply, and gives their support with honesty. However, loyalty should never be given blindly. Loyalty should be given wisely. Many people suffer emotionally because they give loyalty to those who never truly value it. They continue supporting people who only remember them when they need help. They continue giving attention to those who only appear when it is convenient for them. They continue protecting relationships that only exist when they are beneficial for the other person. Such loyalty becomes painful because it is not appreciated. Instead of feeling valued, the loyal person begins to feel ignored. Instead of feeling respected, they begin to feel taken for granted. Instead of feeling secure, they begin to feel uncertain about their place in people's lives. Sometimes a person gives loyalty because they are afraid of losing people. They remain patient even when they feel hurt. They remain available even when they feel tired. They remain silent even when they feel disrespected. They convince themselves that loyalty means tolerating everything, no matter how painful it becomes. But loyalty should never mean accepting repeated neglect. Islam teaches sincerity, but Islam also teaches awareness. A believer is not expected to keep placing themselves in situations where their dignity is repeatedly harmed. A believer learns, reflects, and protects their heart from unnecessary harm. When someone repeatedly shows through their actions that they do not value your presence, continuing to give them the same level of loyalty only damages your emotional peace. Loyalty should exist where there is mutual respect. Loyalty should exist where there is honesty. Loyalty should exist where there is appreciation. If a person only remembers you when they need something but forgets you when you need support, this is not balanced loyalty. If a person accepts your help but never offers understanding, this is not balanced loyalty. If a person benefits from your presence but never values your feelings, this is not balanced loyalty. Many people feel guilty when they begin to distance themselves from those who do not respect them. They feel they are doing something wrong. They feel they are being disloyal. But protecting your dignity is not disloyalty. Protecting your peace is not betrayal. Protecting your emotional stability is wisdom. Your loyalty is precious, and precious things should not be given carelessly. Loyalty should be invested where there is sincerity, not where there is convenience. Loyalty should be given to those who stand with you sincerely, not only when they benefit from you. Sometimes the most painful realization is understanding that not everyone values you the way you value them. Not everyone appreciates your sacrifices. Not everyone recognizes your sincerity. Accepting this reality can be difficult, but it can also be freeing. When you stop forcing loyalty where it is not respected, you allow space for healthier relationships to enter your life. You allow yourself to connect with people who appreciate your presence. You allow your heart to experience relationships built on mutual care and mutual understanding. Not everyone deserves the same level of closeness in your life. Some people belong in your inner circle, while others belong at a respectful distance. Wisdom is understanding the difference. Islam encourages maintaining good character with everyone, but it does not require giving equal access to everyone. Being respectful does not mean being emotionally available to those who continuously ignore your value. A wise person observes patterns. A wise person notices repeated behavior. A wise person understands that actions speak louder than promises. If someone repeatedly shows care, they deserve appreciation. If someone repeatedly shows respect, they deserve closeness. But if someone repeatedly shows neglect, distance becomes protection. Your emotional well-being is important. Your peace is important. Your dignity is important. Loyalty should strengthen you, not weaken you. Loyalty should bring peace, not confusion. Loyalty should create stability, not emotional exhaustion. When loyalty is given wisely, it builds beautiful relationships. When loyalty is given carelessly, it creates silent pain. Protect your loyalty. Value your loyalty. Give your loyalty where it is respected, because the right people will never make you feel that your sincerity is a burden. 3. Stop trying to please everyone. One of the biggest reasons a person becomes emotionally exhausted is because they constantly try to please everyone around them. They want everyone to be happy with them. They want everyone to speak well about them. They want everyone to feel satisfied with their behavior. Because of this desire, they slowly begin to ignore their own needs, their own limits, and even their own peace. At first, trying to make others happy may seem like a good intention. A person wants to avoid conflict. They want harmony in relationships. They want people to feel comfortable in their presence. But when this desire becomes excessive, it begins to damage the heart, because no matter how hard a person tries, pleasing everyone is simply not possible. People have different expectations, different opinions, and different preferences. What makes one person happy may disappoint another. What satisfies one person may upset someone else. If you try to adjust yourself according to everyone's expectations, you will eventually lose your sense of direction. You will no longer know who you truly are, because your entire energy will be focused on becoming what others want you to be. Many people fall into this habit because they fear rejection. They fear being misunderstood. They fear losing relationships. They fear being seen as difficult or unkind. Because of this fear, they agree to things even when their heart feels uncomfortable. They remain silent even when they feel hurt. They continue giving even when they feel empty inside. Slowly, this pattern begins to weaken emotional strength. A person starts feeling tired without understanding why. They start feeling pressured even in simple situations. They begin to feel that their life is controlled by other people's expectations rather than their own values. Islam teaches us something very important. The approval of people is not the ultimate goal. The pleasure of Allah is the ultimate goal. When a person constantly seeks validation from people, they become dependent on opinions that are always changing. One day people appreciate you, another day they criticize you. One day people support you, another day they question you. If your peace depends on people's opinions, your peace will never remain stable. But when your intention becomes focused on pleasing Allah, your heart becomes lighter. You no longer feel the pressure to satisfy every expectation. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You begin to understand that being sincere is more important than being approved by everyone. Trying to please everyone often leads a person to overextend themselves. They give more time than they have. They accept responsibilities they cannot manage. They carry emotional burdens that were never meant for them. In the process, they slowly neglect their own well-being. A person who constantly tries to please everyone may begin to feel unappreciated. They may feel that no matter how much they do, it is never enough. They may feel that their efforts go unnoticed. This creates quiet frustration in the heart, even though the person continues to smile outwardly. One of the hidden dangers of constantly pleasing others is that people begin to expect it. What was once considered a favor becomes seen as normal. What was once appreciated becomes assumed. People begin to believe that you will always adjust, always accept, always sacrifice. But every human being has limits. Emotional strength becomes weaker when those limits are ignored. Inner peace becomes distant when a person lives only according to the expectations of others. A wise person understands that they are responsible for their intentions, not for controlling people's opinions. You can behave with honesty, kindness, and respect, but you cannot force everyone to understand you. You can do good, but you cannot guarantee that everyone will appreciate it. Sometimes people may misunderstand your decisions. Sometimes people may disagree with your choices. Sometimes people may distance themselves when they realize you are no longer trying to please them in every situation. This is not a loss. This is clarity. When you stop trying to please everyone, you begin to discover emotional freedom. You begin to make decisions based on sincerity rather than pressure. You begin to choose what aligns with your values rather than what satisfies temporary expectations. Your time becomes more meaningful. Your energy becomes more protected. Your heart becomes more peaceful. Trying to please everyone often causes a person to say yes when they should say no. They accept invitations they do not have energy for. They accept responsibilities they cannot fulfill comfortably. They accept behavior that quietly hurts them. Over time, this creates inner conflict. The heart feels heavy because it is living against its own truth. Islam encourages good character, but Islam does not require sacrificing emotional stability for the sake of constant approval. Balance is always important. When a person learns to stop chasing approval, they begin to live with sincerity. Their kindness becomes genuine rather than forced. Their generosity becomes meaningful rather than pressured. Their presence becomes peaceful rather than exhausted. It is important to understand that not everyone will agree with you, and that is completely normal. People come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different expectations. Trying to satisfy every perspective is an endless task. Instead of trying to be accepted by everyone, focus on being sincere in your intentions. Focus on doing what is right with honesty. Focus on maintaining good character even when others misunderstand you. A peaceful heart does not come from constant approval. A peaceful heart comes from inner stability. When you stop trying to please everyone, you begin to value your own time. You begin to respect your own limits. You begin to understand that your emotional well-being matters. This does not mean becoming careless towards others. It means becoming balanced. It means caring without losing yourself. It means helping without harming your peace. It means respecting others without ignoring your own dignity. People who truly value you will not require you to constantly prove yourself. People who truly respect you will not expect endless sacrifice. People who truly care about you will understand that you also have limits. And those who only appreciated you when you constantly pleased them may slowly become distant. This distance is not always negative. Sometimes it is necessary for emotional growth. When your intention becomes sincere, your actions become calmer. When your actions become calmer, your heart becomes lighter. When your heart becomes lighter, your life becomes more peaceful. Trying to please everyone may give temporary acceptance, but it often removes long-term peace. But living with sincerity gives lasting peace, even if not everyone agrees with you. And peace is more valuable than approval. 4. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. Many people struggle deeply with one simple word, no. It is a small word, yet for many hearts it feels extremely heavy. They feel uncomfortable refusing others, even when their mind and body are tired. They feel guilty protecting their time, even when they are overwhelmed. They feel afraid that people will think badly of them if they do not agree to every request. Because of this fear, they continue saying yes, even when they want to say no. They continue accepting responsibilities that exhaust them. They continue agreeing to situations that disturb their peace. Slowly, their emotional strength begins to weaken, not because they are incapable, but because they are constantly ignoring their own limits. Saying no is often misunderstood. Many people believe saying no is rude, disrespectful, or selfish. They believe a good person must always be available. They believe refusing someone means hurting them. But this understanding is incomplete. Saying no does not mean you do not care. Saying no means you understand your limits. Every human being has emotional, physical, and mental limits. Even the strongest people cannot carry everything. Even the most generous hearts cannot give endlessly without rest. When a person constantly ignores their own capacity, exhaustion slowly replaces peace. Islam teaches balance in every aspect of life. Helping others is encouraged, supporting others is rewarded, and kindness is loved. But harming yourself in the process is not required. Islam does not teach a person to sacrifice their well-being until they feel empty inside. Islam encourages responsibility, not self-destruction. Sometimes a person says yes because they fear losing relationships. They fear that if they refuse, people will distance themselves. They fear being labeled as selfish or unkind. But relationships that depend on your constant sacrifice are not always healthy relationships. A sincere relationship understands human limits. A sincere relationship respects personal space. A sincere relationship does not demand that one person carry all emotional weight. When you constantly say yes to everything, people slowly begin to expect it. What once felt like appreciation turns into assumption. People begin to believe your time is always available. They begin to assume your energy is unlimited. They begin to feel entitled to your effort. Over time, this creates emotional pressure. You may begin to feel that your life is no longer your own. Your schedule becomes controlled by others. Your peace becomes dependent on others' expectations. Your comfort becomes secondary. Saying no is not rejection. Saying no is clarity. Saying no communicates that your time has value. Saying no communicates that your energy has limits. Saying no communicates that your well-being is important. Every time you say yes to something that harms your peace, you say no to something that could have protected your happiness. Every time you ignore your limits, you slowly weaken your ability to remain emotionally strong. Many people do not realize that constantly saying yes can lead to quiet resentment in the heart. A person may continue helping outwardly, but inwardly they begin to feel tired and unappreciated. They begin to feel that their efforts are never enough. They begin to feel that people only value them for what they provide. When helping others becomes a burden rather than a sincere act of kindness, the heart begins to feel heavy. Learning to say no allows kindness to remain sincere. When you help from a place of balance, your help feels meaningful rather than forced. When you support others while respecting your own limits, your support becomes more genuine. Saying no also protects your ability to fulfill your responsibilities properly. When a person accepts too many obligations, they may struggle to perform any of them well. They feel rushed, pressured, and overwhelmed. But when a person chooses carefully where to invest their energy, they are able to give their best effort. Islam teaches responsibility towards family, personal well-being, and spiritual growth. If a person constantly exhausts themselves trying to meet every external demand, they may neglect responsibilities that truly matter. Sometimes saying no is necessary to protect your mental clarity. Sometimes saying no is necessary to protect your emotional stability. Sometimes saying no is necessary to protect your focus on important priorities. A person who always says yes may begin to lose direction in life. They move according to others' needs rather than their own purpose. Their goals become delayed because they are constantly fulfilling other people's expectations. Saying no allows space for personal growth. Saying no allows time for reflection. Saying no allows energy for meaningful responsibilities. It is important to understand that the right people will not become angry simply because you have limits. People who sincerely care about you will understand that you cannot always be available. They will respect your time and appreciate your honesty. However, people who only benefit from your constant agreement may become uncomfortable when you begin to set boundaries. They may question your decision. They may attempt to make you feel guilty. They may suggest that you have changed. But sometimes change is necessary for emotional health. Setting boundaries is not about becoming distant or cold. It is about becoming balanced. It is about protecting your peace so that your kindness remains genuine rather than exhausted. When you begin to say no respectfully, people begin to recognize that your time is valuable. They begin to understand that your presence is not unlimited. They begin to appreciate your effort more because they realize it is not automatic. Boundaries do not push good people away. Boundaries reveal who truly respects you. Some people fear that saying no will make them lose connections. But connections built only on constant availability are not always stable connections. True relationships are built on mutual understanding. A person who respects you will never want you to feel overwhelmed for their sake. A person who values you will never demand that you ignore your well-being for their comfort. Saying no allows relationships to become healthier because expectations become realistic. It allows communication to become honest because pressure becomes reduced. Another important benefit of saying no is that it protects your emotional energy. Every interaction requires some level of mental attention. Every responsibility requires effort. When your energy is scattered across too many obligations, your ability to remain calm becomes weaker. But when your commitments are balanced, your mind becomes clearer. You feel more present in your actions. You feel more focused in your responsibilities. You feel more peaceful in your daily life. Saying no does not mean refusing everything. It means choosing wisely. It means recognizing what deserves your energy and what does not. It means understanding that not every request requires your sacrifice. You are allowed to prioritize your well-being. You are allowed to choose rest when needed. You are allowed to decline when something disturbs your peace unnecessarily. Balance creates strength. Exhaustion weakens strength. A person who constantly ignores their own needs eventually loses the ability to help others effectively. But a person who protects their own stability becomes capable of helping others sincerely for a longer time. When you say no with respect, your dignity remains protected. When you say no with calmness, your character remains strong. When you say no with wisdom, your relationships become healthier. It is possible to refuse politely without hurting anyone. It is possible to decline respectfully without creating conflict. Tone, sincerity, and honesty make a difference. Sometimes a simple explanation is enough. Sometimes silence is enough. Sometimes a gentle refusal is enough. You do not need to justify every decision in detail. You do not need to convince everyone to agree with your boundaries. Your peace does not require everyone's approval. Learning to say no is not about becoming harsh. It is about becoming stable. It is about creating a life where kindness and dignity exist together. When you respect your limits, you create space for emotional balance. When you create emotional balance, your heart feels lighter. When your heart feels lighter, your kindness becomes more sincere. A person who understands their limits becomes stronger internally. They no longer feel pressured by every request. They no longer feel obligated to carry every burden. They no longer feel guilty for protecting their well-being. Instead, they feel calm. They feel confident. They feel balanced. Saying no does not reduce your value. Saying no protects your value. And when your value is protected, people begin to recognize it more clearly. 5. When you respect yourself, people respect you. Self-respect is one of the most powerful protections a person can have in life. It shapes how you think, how you speak, how you behave, and most importantly, how others treat you. Many people search for respect from the outside world, but they forget that respect often begins from within. When a person understands their own value, they naturally begin to set limits that protect their dignity. And when dignity is protected, respect from others begins to grow. Every human being has been created with honor. Your existence is not without purpose. Your feelings are not without importance. Your time is not without value. When a person forgets their own worth, they begin accepting behavior that slowly weakens their confidence. They tolerate words that hurt them. They accept situations that disturb their peace. They allow patterns that make them feel small. Over time, this acceptance becomes normal. People begin to assume that such treatment is acceptable because they see no resistance. They believe there are no boundaries. They believe there are no limits. Slowly, the value of the person begins to reduce in their eyes. But something very powerful happens when a person begins to respect themselves. Their decisions change, their tone changes, their priorities change, their presence begins to carry quiet strength. They no longer accept everything just to maintain temporary comfort. They begin to choose what protects their dignity. Self-respect does not make a person arrogant. Self-respect makes a person stable. Arrogance looks down on others, but self-respect protects inner balance. Arrogance creates distance, but self-respect creates clarity. A person with self-respect does not need to prove their worth constantly because their actions already reflect their values. People observe how you treat yourself. They observe what behavior you accept and what behavior you refuse. They observe how you respond when you feel disrespected. They observe how much importance you give to your own peace. Without speaking loudly, you teach people how to treat you through your choices. If you allow constant interruption, people assume your time is always available. If you accept repeated disrespect, people assume disrespect is tolerated. If you continuously sacrifice your needs, people assume your needs are not important. But when you begin to value your own time, people begin to respect your time. When you begin to protect your peace, people begin to become careful with your emotions. When you stop accepting behavior that harms your dignity, people begin to realize that your presence is meaningful. Self-respect influences your posture, your words, and your silence. A person who respects themselves does not need to argue constantly. They do not need to explain themselves repeatedly. They do not need to seek approval from every person. Their calmness itself communicates confidence. Many people struggle with self-respect because they worry about losing relationships. They worry that if they set boundaries, people will leave. They worry that if they stop tolerating everything, they will be seen as difficult. But relationships that disappear when you begin to respect yourself are not always healthy relationships. Connections that depend on your silence, your constant sacrifice, or your unlimited availability often create emotional imbalance. Healthy relationships grow stronger when mutual respect exists. Balanced relationships allow both individuals to feel valued. Balanced relationships do not require one person to constantly reduce themselves in order to keep peace. When self-respect becomes strong, a person becomes more selective with their environment. They choose conversations that bring positivity. They choose relationships that bring stability. They choose actions that align with their values. This selectiveness is not pride. It is awareness. It is understanding that your emotional environment affects your mental well-being. Constant negativity weakens the heart, while respectful surroundings strengthen emotional stability. Self-respect also protects your decisions. When a person values themselves, they do not easily follow pressure that leads them away from their principles. They become less influenced by temporary approval. They become less affected by criticism that has no constructive purpose. They understand that not everyone will agree with them, and that is acceptable. Agreement is not always necessary for dignity. What matters is sincerity and integrity. Integrity strengthens self-respect. When your actions match your values, your confidence becomes stronger. You no longer feel the need to pretend. You no longer feel the need to constantly adjust yourself to satisfy changing expectations. Your inner stability becomes your strength. People naturally respect those who respect themselves because stability attracts trust. A person who has clear values appears reliable. A person who maintains balance appears dependable. A person who protects their dignity appears confident. Confidence built on self-respect is quiet. It does not need loud words. It does not need constant attention. It does not need continuous validation. It simply exists in behavior. Self-respect also reduces emotional dependence on others. When a person values themselves, they do not rely entirely on external approval for happiness. They appreciate positive feedback, but they are not controlled by it. They accept constructive criticism, but they are not broken by it. Their emotional foundation becomes stronger because it is not built on unstable opinions. When self-respect grows, emotional resilience also grows. Difficult situations become easier to manage. Negative comments become easier to ignore. Disappointments become easier to accept because the person understands that their worth is not defined by every situation or every opinion. Self-respect also encourages healthier communication. A person who values themselves communicates clearly. They express their thoughts calmly. They listen with patience. They avoid unnecessary conflict because they are not trying to prove superiority. They are simply maintaining balance. Maintaining balance protects peace. Protecting peace strengthens clarity. Strengthening clarity improves decision-making. A person with self-respect chooses long-term stability over short-term approval. They understand that temporary acceptance is not worth permanent emotional discomfort. They become careful about where they invest their time, where they invest their effort, and where they invest their emotional energy. This careful approach does not reduce kindness. It improves the quality of kindness. When kindness comes from a place of stability, it becomes sincere. When kindness comes from pressure, it becomes heavy. Self-respect allows kindness to remain light. It is important to remember that valuing yourself does not mean thinking you are better than others. It means understanding that you are responsible for protecting the peace Allah has placed in your heart. You are responsible for protecting your emotional well-being. You are responsible for protecting your dignity. You are responsible for protecting your time. No one else can maintain these boundaries for you. When you begin to respect your own limits, you create a healthier environment around you. People begin to recognize your presence as meaningful. People begin to appreciate your effort more sincerely. Your relationships become clearer because expectations become balanced. Your communication becomes calmer because pressure becomes reduced. Respect grows naturally when dignity is protected consistently. Self-respect also teaches patience. A person who values themselves does not rush into situations that compromise their peace. They take time to observe, time to understand, and time to decide. They do not react emotionally to every situation because their stability allows thoughtful response. Thoughtful response prevents regret. Regret often comes from decisions made under pressure. Self-respect reduces that pressure. It creates space for wisdom. Wisdom protects dignity. Dignity strengthens character. Strong character attracts respect. When you truly understand your value, you stop accepting behavior that weakens your peace. You stop remaining in environments that constantly drain your energy. You stop giving unlimited access to those who do not appreciate your sincerity. Instead, you begin to focus on what strengthens your heart. You begin to value calmness over chaos. You begin to value sincerity over attention. You begin to value stability over temporary acceptance. Self-respect does not remove kindness, it protects kindness. Self-respect does not create distance from good people. It creates distance from harmful patterns. Self-respect does not isolate a person. It connects them with healthier environments. When a person learns to respect themselves, they no longer feel the need to constantly prove their worth. Their consistency becomes their proof. Their calmness becomes their strength. Their balance becomes their protection. People recognize this strength even if it is not spoken loudly. And once people recognize this strength, their behavior begins to change. Their tone becomes more respectful. Their expectations become more reasonable. Their appreciation becomes more visible because people treat you according to the value they believe you have. And often, that belief is shaped by how you treat yourself. When you respect yourself, people respect you. Not because you demanded respect loudly, but because your actions showed that your dignity is not negotiable. And a person whose dignity is protected is never easily used by others. Always remember, being a good person does not mean allowing yourself to be used. Kindness is a strength, but when kindness exists without boundaries, people begin to forget its value. Islam teaches us to live with compassion, but also with dignity. Your heart should remain soft, but your self-respect should remain strong. You were not created to constantly sacrifice your peace just to keep everyone happy. You were not created to carry every burden while your own heart feels exhausted. Allah has honored you, and that honor should be protected through wise choices, balanced relationships, and sincere intentions. When you begin to respect yourself, you no longer feel the need to chase acceptance from every person. You no longer feel pressured to prove your worth. You understand that your value does not decrease simply because someone fails to appreciate it. The right people will respect your limits. The right people will value your presence. The right people will recognize your sincerity without you having to constantly explain yourself. And those who only came into your life for convenience will slowly lose their influence over your emotions. Do not fear losing people who never truly valued you. Fear losing the peace that Allah placed in your heart, because inner peace is one of the greatest blessings a person can have. Protect your dignity. Protect your emotional well-being. Protect your time. Protect your heart. Be kind but be wise. Be generous but be balanced. Be humble but never lose your self-respect. Because when you know your value, you no longer allow yourself to be used. And when you protect your self-respect, Allah places respect for you in the hearts of others. May your heart always remain strong, your intentions always remain sincere, and your life always remain guided by wisdom.